Baltimore Ravens are in extremely hot water after the Lamar Jackson injury saga took a wild turn on Saturday. Talk about that and so much more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here on this Sunday game day edition of the show, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. And thank you to all the everydayers, the first-time listeners, and if you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. We're 5 days a week plus more here of daily Ravens coverage. We have a jam-packed episode today. Ravens are in extremely hot water after the Lamar Jackson injury situation just evolved, and not in a good way for the Ravens on Saturday. Lamar Jackson ruled out for Week 8 against Chicago and ruled out in one of the weirder ways I've ever seen. So we'll talk about all that. And then, yes, there is a game today against the Chicago Bears. So even if you're just watching the show, maybe after the fact, and you are just tuning in for the whole drama with the Ravens, you can still stay tuned and listen, because we're going to do predictions and bowl predictions, final score. So you can see if I was right or wrong or how accurate I was if you're watching this after the fact. So we'll do that a little bit over the course of the rest of the show as well. Again, thank you for being here. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, well, there's so many places we could start here. The Ravens, they are in hot water. And again, usually our game day episodes are like, all right, we're just going to preview the entire game, do that for 3 segments. But this is such a big story that developed over the course of Saturday. I mean, we can't not talk about it. It's the biggest story in football right now, if we're being honest. And we had an instant reaction show to Lamar Jackson being ruled out of this game against Chicago. But that was more of like hey, Lamar's ruled out. What's Tyler Huntley going to do? And we'll talk about that more here today. But I did that before all this other stuff started to come out about the injury. And we talked about a little bit on that instant reaction show about how the Ravens, they downgraded his practice status from full to limited. I can't remember a time that has happened, and has put the Ravens again in hot water, where they had to release a statement. The NFL is now going to look into this. Like it's gone so many different ways. So long story short, Lamar Jackson obviously has been out with the hamstring injury, right? We all know that. He practiced in limited fashion on Wednesday and limited fashion on Thursday. Now on Friday, he ended up practicing, or the Ravens told us at least, he practiced in full. John Harbaugh went up on the podium and said that he practiced in full. So everyone's like, all right, that's great. Lamar is the only player listed as questionable. That John Harbaugh didn't commit to him playing or not playing. He didn't say he was going to be out there or not, but even still, a full practice, that tells you something. That's what injury reports are for, right? And so then at about, when was it? It was like 10:30-ish in the morning, I believe it was, Eastern time, or right around then. Ian Rappaport, he ended up reporting that Lamar Jackson ran the scout team on that Friday practice, an indication that he is a week away from returning despite having the full practice. And so everyone's like, what are you talking about? He's in line to play. I feel, that's what a full practice means, and this, that, and the other. And then about an hour-ish, 2 hours-ish later, the Ravens released a statement just out of nowhere. And the statement ended up reading that the Ravens had essentially ruled Lamar out. It said, quote, there has been an update to Lamar Jackson's Friday practice and game status. Jackson was downgraded from a full participant to limited, and he has been ruled out for tomorrow's game versus Chicago. And everyone is just absolutely up in arms about this. Like, why was he even listed as a full participant? Everyone was lied to here. Like, how could this happen? And so multiple points of speculation began to come out. Tom Pelissero of NFL Network, he said that, hey, why was Lamar retroactively downgraded from full to limited on a Friday? And Tom said, quote, for any player to be considered a full participant, he must take his normal reps. Example, quarterback 1 reps. For quarterback 1, but as Ian Rappaport said, Jackson took scout team reps Friday, so Jackson should have classified as limited, as he ultimately was when the team ruled out today. But then Jonathan Jones of CBS, he said, quote, the NFL's injury policy fairly explicitly accounts for the scenario the Ravens found themselves in Friday. And there's a quote here that he put out, said, participation on the scout team, no matter how extensive, by a player whose normal repetitions would be with the starters, but for his medical condition would not alter the player's proper designation, is limited participation. And this is unbelievable. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. We know that the Ravens, with it's not just Lamar, but other injury situations, have handled them in a sketchy manner at times. But this, to me, just signals such a disconnect between player and team. And I saw people talking about it on social media that, a lot of people are speculating that the Ravens are scared to approach Lamar and talk to Lamar about these things and communicate with him. We saw how the contract negotiations went. That felt like pulling teeth. And this whole thing and other injuries with Lamar have felt like pulling teeth. I'm not saying like Lamar or anything. I'm just saying like from the information that is there or not there. It just feels like there's a much more straightforward path for the information to get out, and it just doesn't. We know from Lamar's side of things, he's a very private person. His camp is very tight knit. Like, he doesn't let a lot out. So I think it was actually Nick Wright who put this out, and a lot of people agreed with him. And I know Ravens fans and Nick Wright don't necessarily see eye to eye, but Nick Wright said, quote, I understand the gambling implications of the Ravens lying on the injury report, re Lamar's status, but that actually is an incidental story in this. The real reason is the Ravens listing Lamar as a full participant is a way to pressure him into playing. The real story is the Ravens listing Lamar as a full participant is a way to pressure him into playing, and Lamar rejecting it. And again, there's no indication that is true or not true. And as more information comes out, because again, this is like not the last time we're going to hear about this. I'm sure the NFL is going to look into this. That is protocol here. And even still, like, this, to me, I would probably assume the Ravens are going to get a pretty hefty fine for this. There's also a possibility they could lose a draft pick for this if more information comes out and it, makes the Ravens, you have them breaking the rules or, doing something. I think that the Ravens, because there are two paths that could go. The Ravens could say, hey, we didn't know, we didn't understand the policy, like, sorry, and then they'll fine them, but probably not take away the draft pick. Or they could try to fight it. And then if the NFL finds stuff, they're probably taking away a draft pick and fining him anyway. So I would say the Ravens will just be like, it was a miscommunication. They'll be fined a lot of money, and then that'll probably be the end of it. But this is such a black eye on the organization. It is. I mean, this has been a terrible, horrible season for the Ravens. This whole season has been one of the lowest lows in franchise history. I put out a post on social media. The Ravens season so far, a historic collapse in week 1 versus the Bills, one of the worst defenses in NFL history this season. You have had 20-plus injured players at one point. You've been embarrassed at home 3 times. You have players leaving the locker room before the media arrives after losses. You have a player in TJ Gardner-Johnson signing and leaving within a week. You have multiple reports, anonymous players on the team and other team sources bashing Todd Monken and the team in general. And then you also now have multiple sketchy handlings of injury situations, including Lamar Jackson. Jaire Alexander is in that conversation. It's been a horrible season. And obviously you're 1-5, staring 1-6 potentially in the face. And again, the whole gambling thing with the NBA, like, that's obviously a massive storyline around the world right now with everything that's going on. And now this is going on because, look, we saw with some of how it works with the books. I mean, that goes based off of like who's available and who's not, right? Like, it just is what it is. Like, for FanDuel, we read off the numbers for the spots that we do. And I love looking at those numbers on FanDuel, but it reflected Lamar essentially being out there. And then those numbers for FanDuel right now, I mean, it was up at like 6.5 for the Ravens, 7 for the Ravens in terms of the spread point favorites. And now the Ravens are just 2.5 point favorites. So that number dropped a lot. So that's the other angle of it. And maybe stuff will come out about that. I'm not sure, but there are so many different angles, and that is one of them. Obviously, the Ravens love to play these like mind games with opponents with, oh, he's going to play. No, he's not going to play. Like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it because now you're in this situation. But, you're telling me if the Ravens essentially play dumb and say, oh, we didn't know. And maybe they didn't see something in the rule book, or it is what it is. And like, again, we don't know that all right now, at least at the time I'm recording this. But you mean to tell me that a head coach in his 18th season isn't looking over that rule book and has an idea of what's going on and, doesn't have people looking over that rule book to say, hey, we need to do this, we need to do that. Not to mention, it's not like it's your third string quarterback or anything. It's literally the most important player on your team, one of the best players in the entire league that you're doing this for. And, if it was an oversight, it was a massive oversight. If it was something where you're trying to get every advantage you can, you got caught doing it, well, then I think that people need to lose their jobs for that. So I don't know. The post-game press conference from John Harbaugh today is going to be wild. One way, if they lose, it's going to be an ugly post-game press conference. I'll tell you that much with all this going on. If they win, I'm sure that he'll just apologize and try to sweep it under the rug and all that. But this is just an awful, awful situation. And the Ravens ended up releasing a clarifying statement saying Lamar Jackson was present for and participated fully in our entire Friday practice ahead of Sunday's game against the Bears. On further evaluation today and after conferring with the league office, because Lamar didn't take starter reps in practice, we updated our report to reflect his practice participation. Again, just very fishy stuff. It's something where you've already had a lot of moments this year for this organization where they've come out looking bad on the other side. This one, though, takes the cake. It's disappointing, for a team that has such a high standard, and it's very rare for drama to, impact the team or at least have it come out. I mean, over the past calendar year, there's been an uncountable amount of situations that have had drama like this. And this one, I think, is the most serious considering what the potential consequences could be. Like, it's just all around bad right now. And hey, you got to play the Bears today without Lamar Jackson. We're coming up in the second part of the show. We're going to be diving into what Tyler Huntley has to do in Lamar Jackson's place in order for them to get this win. We'll get to some predictions as well that you can look back on later, or if you're listening after the fact, you can look back on them with us coming up in the second part of the show. So stay tuned. Plenty coming your way on Locked On Ravens. First, the show was brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, tried player props, and even follow the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. We now know Lamar Jackson will be out for this game against the Bears. It'll be Tyler Huntley, and the line certainly reflects that. The Ravens now 2.5-point home favorites over the Bears in Week 8. So whether you like the Bears as the road underdog or the Ravens as the home favorite, you have to head over to FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. And the show is brought to you by Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS, that's SAD, software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance. All in one place, they've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. By uniting your employees, teams, and departments in one system, Rippling removes the bottlenecks, busy work, and silos your software created. Everything from onboarding to payroll to IT access runs automatically and perfectly in sync. It's seriously simple to use and gives companies one source of truth for their people, data, and everything they touch. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. Learn more at rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. That's rippling.com/LockedOnNFL for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply. Moving along on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this Sunday game day edition of the show. The Ravens and Bears facing off in week number 8 after Lamar Jackson's injury status takes a turn. He will not play in this game, and there's a whole other lot of drama on top of that. So we talked about that in the first part of the show. We'll wrap that conversation up here in the second part of the show. So again, appreciate everybody for being here. We have 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. Obviously, we do pregame episodes here, 6 a.m. Eastern time, every single game day. Actually, the game day episode for next week is just going to be the Thursday regular show because the Ravens play on Thursday night against the Dolphins. But during the game days, we also have watch-alongs, instant reactions, as well as the Locked On Ravens squad show. So you can watch along with me for the game, and we react to every play. And then right after that, we have the instant reaction show. Then myself, Sam Njoku, informed Ravens receiver Kadri Ismail. We break it all down in the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. So it's like 6 hours of content for you on game days, which is really fun. We also have bonus episodes. We had a jam-packed Saturday too. I mean, we had a bonus episode about the stunning report from the Baltimore Banner about Todd Monken and team sources and people around the team essentially bashing Todd Monken. And then we had the instant reaction live to Lamar Jackson's injury. Now, to wrap up that conversation about Lamar's injury, it's not about Lamar not playing. I mean, I guess it is, but it's also not, because if Lamar is not healthy enough to play, if he doesn't feel healthy enough to play, whatever it is, then he shouldn't be out there playing, right? If he's not healthy enough, I don't want him out there playing, right? I don't think anybody does. I don't want risk of re-injury. I don't want him to, be lost for the season or worse if he's out there and things aren't ready. Hamstring injuries can be very tricky and, they can linger. So it's not necessarily about that. It's about the optics of everything else, where it just feels like, again, the Ravens want to over and over again try to get every little advantage they can. And now I honestly think legitimately this is such a bad situation, they might stop doing it. Like, they might stop trying to win every single thing here because it's just not worth it. It is just not worth it. And, this is going to be a stain on the organization, probably regardless of if it was just like a misunderstanding. It will be a stain on the organization, it feels like to me, for a long time here. And, with the whole thing going on in the world right now, with all the gambling stuff in the NBA, like, you hear Lamar Jackson as a full participant, and I'm sure, you want to, if people are trying to see how the Ravens or the Bears are going to, when you go over to FanDuel, let's say, hey, I'm going to look, the Ravens, Lamar Jackson's playing. I feel good about that. Let's go. Ravens are their favorite. All right, that's cool. That's the number, whatever the number was. Then all of a sudden, Lamar's not playing. You're like, whoa, what? So that's kind of the conversation that people are having right now, where, you head over to FanDuel under the assumption of one thing, and then something else happens like this, and you're like, wait, what? And obviously the injury reports, like, that's a sacred thing throughout the NFL, essentially. Like, it's bad. So it's not about Lamar being injured or not playing. I know there's a whole other conversation about Lamar. I've seen some people say that he's quitting on the team, or that, like, he's being lazy. I don't believe that. I mean, I would have to see pretty hard evidence of that personally. Lamar is, a super competitor. He wants to win. And we've seen that over the course of his career. I think that is wrong. I do not think that that's the case. I don't know what's going on. And again, if evidence is out there and that comes to light, we'll talk about whatever it is, whether it's Lamar, whether it's the team. But there's nothing to suggest that Lamar is quitting on the team. Like, I don't believe that for a second right now. So I wanted to get that out there because I know a lot of people are talking about it. I don't know the situation with Lamar and his injury. I don't know how injured he is. Like, I don't know if he just doesn't feel ready to play. Roquan has the hamstring. He's going to be ready, it feels like. And look, some players, they heal differently than other players, right? It is what it is, where some players heal slower, other players heal faster. I mean, everybody is different. So the way that Roquan recovers from a hamstring could be different than Lamar, and the injury that Lamar suffered could be more serious or severe. It could be less. I don't know. That's why there's just so much unknown. And I don't want to like speculate over like what's going on and like this is exactly what's happening. But, there are so many paths that this could take here. But the one that it is taking at the moment is that Lamar's not going to be out there, which means it will be Tyler Huntley, who actually did beat the Bears all the way back the last time these two teams played in 2021. That game was 16-13. Huntley orchestrated a beautiful game-winning drive for the Ravens, where Devonta Freeman, Ravens legend and Locked On Ravens legend, by the way, just ask you. He punched in that ball, scored the touchdown, and gave the Ravens the win there. So he's done it once before. My thing, though, is I need to see it defensively from the Ravens. Now, we saw improvement in week 6 against the Rams, where they're able to even force a turnover. They got some sacks, and they stopped the Rams on 3rd down, which was great. Ravens special teams messed up. They took advantage of some mistakes. So that was better. But I need to see it again. I need to see them force some turnovers more. I need to see them get some sacks, like more of those. You need to be able to do that. Bears offense is middling. They're not bad, but they're not great. Like they're right in the middle of the pack, in my opinion there. Defense is a great turnover defense for Chicago. They're first in the league in turnovers with 16. They lead the league in turnover percentage, the whole 9 yards. Baltimore's 30th in that category for context. But defensively, the Bears 28th and 31st in passing and rushing, respectively, yards per attempt given up. So I think there can be some chunk plays to be had, but at the same time, the offense does shift with Tyler Huntley. Now, it doesn't shift as much because Cooper Rush is not in there, and Cooper Rush got demoted. We know that. Huntley is going to be the guy here. That's what John Harbaugh said. So, this to me feels like you're going to have to establish Derrick Henry early in this game. You're going to have to get play action going. I don't expect like a lot of deep balls in this game. I think Tyler Huntley will probably try to find guys over the middle of the field. I think probably get the tight ends involved, some security blankets. I think Zay will be able to work open because, again, the Bears are missing a bajillion corners. I mean, Jalen Johnson's not going to play. Kyler Gordon's not going to play. Tyreek Stevenson is not going to play. So you're going pretty far down that depth chart in Chicago with the corner position right now. So, this would be a great time for a Rashod Bateman breakout game. But the Ravens, like they have to do when Lamar's not out there, seems like the script, you have to win this game ugly. You have to win this game ugly. And when you look at some of the Bears in their conversion percentages, the Bears are really good defensively on third down. They're the second best third down defense in the league right now, giving up just 30.5 of those conversions. You need to extend drives. You cannot keep giving the ball back to Caleb Williams. We talk about this all the time here on this show. You need to extend your offensive drives, and defensively, you need to get off the field on third down. The Bears also on fourth down are a really good fourth down defense. But in the red zone, the Bears struggle. So we know the Ravens are probably going to have to score some points to keep up with Chicago here. The ceiling for Tyler Huntley starts in terms of points is not very high. It's just not. We know the Ravens in the two games without Lamar Jackson this season have averaged just 6.5 points per game. You're not going to win a game, or at least a lot of football games, when you're putting up 6.5 points per game. So in the red zone, it's about touchdowns, not field goals. Let Tyler Loop kick the extra points, not 30 or 40-yard field goals, right? Or 20 or 30-yard field goals. That's the big key here to me in this one. For the Ravens and what they've been able to do this season on third down and fourth down. I mean, they're a middling third down offense. Again, that's with Lamar Jackson, though. They're horrible on fourth down offensively. They just haven't been good. And they're terrible in the red zone, too. They're 30th in the red zone and 30th on fourth down. Their defense is terrible all across the board. 27th in third down conversion percentage, 28th in fourth down conversion percentage, and 28th in red zone conversion percentage. So those are all things you're going to have to do in order to win this game if you're Baltimore. And coming up in the final part of the show, we'll get to some bold predictions, some final predictions. Will the Ravens win this game with Tyler Huntley as possible? But just how likely is it? So be sure to stay tuned. Plenty coming your way on Locked On Ravens. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moves the game forward is in week 6 for the Ravens because they didn't play in week 7. John Jenkins, he had a huge turnover on Matthew Stafford, and the Ravens have struggled with turnovers this season. That's something they've been really trying to get a hang of, and John Jenkins really wasn't expected to be this big guy for the Ravens defense in terms of production, but he's one of the unsung heroes of that unit. So that was a moment that kept the Ravens moving forward. And of course, they didn't win the game, unfortunately, but even still, that's something that hopefully they can take a positive away from, get back on the field in week 8 against the Bears and force a couple of turnovers there. Hopefully that had a positive momentum for the team and for the fan base as well as they continue to move forward. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Continuing on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you talking Ravens football. Ravens and Bears face off in week number 8 after some crazy Ravens drama on Saturday. And appreciate everybody for being here and making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. We just hit 16,000 subscribers on the video side of things. So thank you so much for all the support over on the video side of things. 17,000 subscribers up next. So be sure you hit the like and subscribe button in an audio form. Thank you for all the support over there as well. It's been incredible to see the daily listenership continue to go up and up and up. So thank you. And be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. So we have such a great video community, such a great audio community. You can also follow me over on social media at Chaos Record 34, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and you can also Tell a friend, tell a family member. If they want some daily Ravens coverage, we have them covered, just like we have you covered over here on Locked On Ravens. And be sure, again, we're going to have the Locked On Ravens watch along today at 1 p.m. We're going to watch every single play of this Bears and Ravens game together. Then after that, we'll have the instant reaction shows. And after that, the Locked On Ravens squad show. So plenty of game day coverage coming your way. All right, well, it's time for some predictions. Time to get into how the Ravens can win this game. As I kind of mentioned in the second part of the show, you're going to need to slop this game up. You're going to have to win ugly, in my opinion, if you're the Ravens. Again, the Bears are a team that's on a 4-game win streak. They've played solid football over the course of these last 4 weeks. They haven't beaten anybody super crazy, or it's not like they're playing the Bills or the Lions or the Eagles or anybody like that right now. It's been more like the Raiders and, the Commanders, who were all banged up, like those types of teams. But still, hey, a win is a win. I don't want to take away that from them. It's impressive. 4-game win streaks are hard to come by in this league. And the Ravens are on a 4-game losing streak of their own, not winning, losing streak. So the Bears are trying to prove that they're for real. The Ravens are trying to get any sort of momentum that they can. But if you fall to 1-6, your season is pretty much all but over. And that rides on the shoulders of Tyler Huntley, who the Ravens have let go twice, brought him back because, it just kind of makes sense, it's a system or whatnot. I don't have a ton of confidence here because it's not necessarily just about Tyler Huntley. It's because of the fact that I need to see it from the defense. And this could be the game. Like, this 100% could be with Caleb Williams and everything. Like, it could be the game the Ravens force a couple turnovers and, use Caleb Williams and as an experience to their advantage. Like, that could be the thing. The Ravens defense is healthy, right? They are healthy. Outside of Nnamdi Madubuike, who is their sack leader still, which we're not going to talk about, and Tavius Robinson, who was their other sack leader, both guys on injured reserve. Getting Roquan back is huge despite him not playing well to start the season. Marlon, like that's huge. You have Kyle Hamilton. Alohi Gilman made a big impact last week. It's just going to be about generating pressure, making Caleb Williams uncomfortable. But this game to me is going to come down to who wins the turnover battle. And I think that, Lamar Jackson, one of the things, and you're missing a lot with Lamar not out there, obviously, but one of the things you're really missing without Lamar is he's turned himself into a pretty low mistake player over the course of the last handful of seasons. He's been a very low interception player, protecting the football. That's what Tyler Huntley is going to have to do. He cannot put the ball in harm's way. The Bears defense will take advantage. Kevin Byard is a ball hawk back there. You have Jaquan Brisker, Montez Sweat. Tremaine Edmonds is a beast. There are so many different players on that defense, despite them being really far down on their depth chart at the cornerback position. But I expect, because again, Zay has been dominating target share. He's been dominating yard share as well in this offense. I expect this to be an audition game of sorts for Mark Andrews. I think that the Ravens, I'm not going to say they're going to try to force feed him the football, but I think that Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews, the tight ends, are going to have a big game here against this Bears team. Now, I think that depending on how this game goes to the Ravens, Mark might not even be on the team come after week 9 when the trade deadline hits. It's November 4th. But if you lose this game and you're 1-6, that's tough. But if you win this game, you go to 2-5, and Lamar comes back hopefully next week, which is apparently the expectation, then he can beat that Miami team, which is just atrocious right now. All of a sudden, you're 3-5, and while your path to the playoffs still might just be, you got to hope you win the division, because with Pittsburgh and Cincinnati and those teams and whatnot, you still are in a much better spot. But 1-6, you'd essentially have to go 9-1 over your last 10 games to even have a shot at making the wild card, because last year the team that had the worst record, the teams that did that record, was 10-7. So it's just so tough for me, because I don't know if the Ravens have enough offensively, especially with that offensive line playing the way that it has and how bad it's been. If the Ravens can't establish the run early, it's going to be tough. I had so much confidence in them winning this game with Lamar Jackson. I was so ready for this to be the bounce back. I can't pick them to win this game. And I'm doing it hopefully for the Locked On Ravens reverse jinx, which I said we're going to claim that if it happens. But I'm going to say the Ravens lose this game by 1 point, 19-18. 19-18 is my final score prediction. I think the defense has a decently solid game overall. I think they force a couple turnovers, honestly, but I just think that the offense is going to struggle for a lot of this game. And, even 18 feels a little high for me with Tyler Huntley in there. They have the talent to win the games without Lamar Jackson, but, it's going to be about system, about scheme, about play calling, about coaching as well. And that also is an area where I'm not feeling pretty confident in them. So it's just tough right now. Like, there are avenues for them to win this game, but at this point, I need to see it first before I can confidently pick them again. Right. I'm not just going to come on here and pick the Ravens every single week, just to pick the Ravens every single week. Like, obviously we do real predictions here on the show, and I need to see it first before I pick them. I do. I need to see it for another week defensively, like they had against the Rams. I need to see them be able to win a game without Lamar Jackson. They've lost their last 5. So it's been a struggle for them there. It's possible, certainly is. They need it. They're in a corner, like Kyle Hamilton said. They're going to be the ones that are going to be punching back in that corner. But, this still is a talented Bears team. So I'm going to go Bears 19-18 over the Ravens. But hey, I'm telling you, if they win, Locked On Ravens reverse jinx. You heard it here first. But that's all I have here today on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. On the way out, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button in video form and follow along and subscribe in audio form for 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. Coming up, we'll have the Locked On Ravens watch along, as well as the instant reaction show, as well as the Locked On Ravens squad show for you here on game day. So be sure to stay tuned. I'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.